Hello, I've been asked to make a video explaining why the Ingot squad is the meta over Blueprint now and how to abuse it. So here it is. I wasn't planning to make it because I thought it's fairly obvious, but I don't mind going over it. Okay, so first of all, we got some new upgrades. Everything past this point is new with the second expansion. And we got 2 upgrades for the Ingot squad and only 1 for the Blueprint. Blueprint gets just 1 starting hope, so you can start with a 6-star. That's fine, but not that interesting. Ingot gets an item to start with, Scales of Avarice, which, as you might guess from the name, gives you money, which is good when you're gonna spawn in a lot of shops. And the other option gives you a Puan after entering a shop. Now, given that you have the ability to summon shops wherever you want, this is insanely useful. On top of that, the Ingot squad itself will also give you money when you go to a new floor. And the boss key is a new floor. When you destroy a Puan, you also get money. So you can see it just gives you a lot more sources of money. New floor, destroying Puans, going to a non-combat node, all of those things give you money. And it also gives you Puans. So even before we get the shop summoning itself, it just gives you a bunch of benefits. Now, let's just go over how to abuse it real quick. The operators don't matter. So, there's 2 things to abuse it. First of all, you want to maximize the number of Puans you get, both so you can travel vertically more and go to boss keys, and so you can get more fights. So, in this circumstance, we see that we have a fight here, and we know this fight has a Puan, or well, I do anyway. If you don't, you can look it up on some sites like ToMimiDev or the WikiGG site. Though I just know all the stages that have or don't have Puans at this point. Anyhow, if you know what stages have Puans, you can just take that, go for it, great. But if we don't have any Puans here, then, well, normal stage that doesn't have a Puan isn't that useful, so we can turn it into a shop. And now you pick up a Puan, you pick up money if you're overweight. The way the Scales of Avarice work is you get 3 ingots from every non-combat node after you're over 20 weight. After the first floor, you're effectively always going to be over 20 weight, so that's a very easy condition. The shop can give you additional Puans. Unlike wish nodes, you also get recruits from the shop, so you can pick up operators from here. So unlike wish nodes, if you overspam wish nodes with Blueprint, you don't actually end up behind your squad. And on top of that, you have the reroll. And then you can pick up even more stuff from here. This item always gives a Puan, by the way, it's guaranteed, so you can get a ton of Puans. Now, onto the second part of abusing the shop spamming. There's 2 things you should know about. The first of all is that you're going to have an endless supply of shops almost. You can always call one wherever you want. First, you need to make sure you don't just randomly pick up items that don't matter. You are normally incentivized to do that in IS, because you don't know where the next shop is. If you get one on floor 4 and have 150 ingots for some reason, yeah, you're gonna drop on a lot of items, even if they're kind of shit. But with the Ingot squad, you can summon a shop wherever you want to. So, if you don't like anything, you should just save your money, for the most part. The second part is an item called Home Dust. Let me see if I can find it. Because it's extremely abusive with the Ingot squad. Let me fish one out. Yeah, there we go. This thing, the Home Dust. It's insanely broken. So, the way it works is that if it's discarded or lost, you get it back on the next floor. Here's the thing though. You can just sell it in the shop as well, and then you will still get it back. Obviously. Oh yes, I should also explain this. So the Wamp was already better than the Talons, but the Talons are infinitely worse now, because going up or down costs us 3 Puans. So it's far more difficult to get a bunch of fights, and we have some harder fights mixed in on floor 4 especially. So the Talons are more dangerous, and you kind of get less reward. The Wamp is safer, you immediately get the King's Relics, but because you're fighting normal fights in the first place, and have a much greater ability to select what fights to pick and what to skip, you are at much lower risk because you're fighting easier enemies. So with the Wamp and Ingot, you take less fights and you get better items. That's why the Talon is kind of bad now, if I'm being honest, at least compared to the Wamp Ingot combo. I think playing with Talons is more fun, and my next video after I make a guide on Ending 5 will probably be me doing Ending 4 and 5 together with Talons and no Ingot squad, just for fun. But if you just wanna win, you should absolutely use Ingot and Wamp. Nothing else, not even Blueprint, is remotely close to the power of this combo. You don't even need to get money out, because you have so many ways to generate money. You don't even need to withdraw. For example, you can just buy every home dust you see and sell it constantly. The real benefit of home dust are actually boss keys, because when you go in a boss key, it will give you back the home dust. So if you see there's a boss key somewhere on the floor, you can just summon a shop before it, sell off the home dust, and you get it back immediately. It's very overpowered. And that's about it. Again, just make sure you don't just randomly buy some items because you have money. Like in this case, if I don't like anything here, maybe buy the recruit, maybe buy the rune. If you don't like anything, just save your money. Especially because you have the freedom to pick your fights to a much greater degree than when you're running Talons. Like if you see there's some nasty fight, you don't want to play this, you can just reroll it into a shop. Or if you think it's playable, you take the shop and then move on. You can save the Ingot squad for later. Usually on the second floor, you want to just summon it immediately when you're running the Wamp, so you can also gain a bunch of King's Relics quickly. But it's not necessary. It might be reasonable to save it if you are scared of a certain fight and want to avoid it. Like for people who are pathologically afraid of cast fouls because deploying W facing to the right is too complicated, you can simply save the Ingot squad for cast fouls. And then get a easy clear from there. More home dust. It's important to consider your weight as well. So for example, in this case, we have very limited carry capacity. So we can just sell the home dust to gain back the carry capacity. You can see how many plants I have already, just from walking around. I didn't take a single fight and we're already at 5 plants. That's the power of the squad. And then you can use this to fish out your King's Relics fairly quickly. Though I don't think getting them is a huge rush, because with this strategy you're fighting normal fights anyway. And you should always try to get these things. If it's a... So the only one you want to skip here is an Inspire. You should have an excess of plants, so if it's Slingers or plants, you should just get it on the second floor. It will benefit you quite a bit. Unlike with other squads, even with Blueprint, normally you want to save some plants when going to the next floor, just so you can be more flexible. With the shop you don't give a shit because you can just make your own plants. Okay, do we have a boss key? Unfortunately not. In that case, let's just go get the King's Relics, and I think we'll finish this video. Again, we just can be picky. We know there's no boss key, so no reason to pick this. You can get double recruits, so missing a bunch of fights no longer matters, because you get your recruits from the shop. And if you don't like the recruits, you just skip them, of course. By the way, because you're likely to run into this item, never get this item before level 6. You gain a max health life on level 6 and that will screw you over. Other than that, you just need to know what items are good to fully abuse the shop. In short, what you really want is multiplicative damage stacking. For example, this gives a sniper attack. That's great. Imagine this was the sniper judgment item instead. I actually don't need to imagine. It's the King Relic. This thing will stack together multiplicatively another ton of damage. So you want different sources of attack damage basically, and attack speed. Different sources of damage all add together and give you obscenely high numbers. That's how we had things like the reserve caster soloing the Yamiya fight. It's basically like playing Doodle of Hope. So you still have... so you can avoid fights, but you get the King's Relics and the shops fix your recruits. So the shop covers everything essentially. That's the true power of it. Though you can always get trolled like this. Not much trolling if I actually have operators, but I'm just talking about the shop here, so I don't care much about it. There we go, King's Relics. And then the only thing you need to think about is fight priority. As I've always talked about, going vertically is just objectively better than going horizontally in terms of a single node. Obviously, this node can be much better than this one, so you should consider that. But by going vertically, you get more fights. And Ingot simply gives you the most pawns, so you can have the most vertical movement. On top of that, unlike Blueprint, you can avoid shit like what happened here, where we didn't throw a single wish node, because the shop reroll is always your first reroll and it's 100% guaranteed. So you always know that some dangerous fight you want to avoid is not going to turn into the W fight. You know it's going to be a shop. That makes it safer and more consistent than the normal reroll. On top of giving you insane value from having recruits, giving you a greater capacity to pick your items, and the ability to abuse stuff like home dust for money. Okay, that's about here. Video's over.